Hey, what's up everybody? This is 8-Bit Flashback, and today I wanted to share with you one of my latest custom builds. This is the Turbo Grafx 16 Micro. This build is inspired and dedicated to the original Turbo Grafx 16 that was released in the United States on August 29, 1989. This is a Turbo Grafx 16 micro console. So this thing is crazy small, and this is powered by a Raspberry Pi Zero. And I made this as small as it could possibly be and be able to fit that Pi Zero inside of it still. And I do have a power switch installed on this. I even got a hue card slot and some little hue cards. I got a couple of them here. I got Ninja Spirit, Blazing Lasers, and Splatterhouse. I can put that in a hue card slot. And these are not functional, they're just for show and entertainment, but they do look cool. Put them inside my micro console here. So those just go right in the slot like they would have on the original console. As far as this micro console goes, I did think about making these little hue cards, turning these into micro SD cards and making them functional, but that would require the micro console being a little bit bigger, and I wanted this console as small as it could possibly be and still be functional. But I do have another console that I made a while back that does have functional hue cards, and this one's powered by a Raspberry Pi 3, and I have an SD card slot here, and the hue cards for this are actual SD cards, so I can run games right off of this card right here. And I do have a video about this build. I did this a while back, and I'll make sure to put this in the description. So I do have a small micro momentary switch that's installed inside here, and this turns off and on the console with a safe shutdown script. On the back here I do have my ports here. I got my power, my USB port, and my HDMI out. And on the side I do have some micro SD card access. So there's a look at my micro SD card, and that just goes right in the slot on the side here. Now this is far from perfect. I did print this with a 3D printer using ABS plastic. If anyone out there does have a resin printer, you might have a lot better luck getting the detail to be a lot sharper, and there won't be as much post work after printing it as well. And I do have some 3D print files if you want to print one of these cases for yourself, but they're not quite ready yet, and as soon as they are ready, I'll be posting that info in a future video here very soon. For some extra detail on this console, I did add a Turbo Grafx 16 logo, along with some detailed paint where some of the ports would have been on the console originally. I got that marked with yellow dots. And then the power switch, I have the momentary switch that's inside there, and I did paint that orange. And on the bottom I do have some vents to keep my Pi Zero a little bit cooler, and I put some rubber feet on it as well. That way it doesn't slide around when it's on the desk here. And what's really cool is the Turbo Grafx 16 Mini controller works with this setup really well. To use this controller with my micro console, I use a standard USB to micro USB adapter, and then I can just plug this right into the back of my micro console. So here's what the Turbo Grafx 16 Micro looked like fresh off the printer. And as you can see, it's pretty rough looking. I had to do a lot of extra sanding to get it to have a better looking finish and look a little bit better. And here's a quick look at some of the work I had to do after it came off the 3D printer. I had to do a bunch of different sanding to get rid of a lot of blemishes. Then I painted it with some filler primer to fill in any voids. Then I sanded it again. Then I painted it with a base coat black, then finished it off with a matte finish clear coat. And this is just a very simplistic design. I got it to where it presses together somewhat, and then you secure it together with screws. On the inside here I do have some posts that I drilled through to add some screws to. And the Raspberry Pi Zero sits in it just like this, and it lines up with the ports on the back, and then your SD card access right here, and then your top presses on. I got my vents on the bottom there, and what I did is I drilled a hole through the bottom here to the posts on the inside and secured that with screws. And then for a power switch, I got a micro momentary switch that got mounted inside the case right about here. And that lines up with the power button that's on the front right here. And I just drilled a hole through the case so that power button could fit through it right there. And then soldered some wires from my momentary switch to the Raspberry Pi Zero board. And for my logos and the stickers for my hue cards, I just used some white glossy sticker paper to print out my logos. And this works really well. I just cut out the logos, peel them off, and then stick them right to wherever I need to. And as you can see here, this is about as small as I could possibly make this case, and that's what I was going for. If I was to make this any less wide, that Raspberry Pi Zero would not fit inside here. And that's what I was going for. As far as the scale of this console goes, I'd say it's probably at about quarter scale. I think the new Mini, it's probably at about 3/4 scale. The new Mini that came out, it's actually not that mini, it's kind of big. As far as the software goes for this micro console, I am using Retropie with a custom attract mode user interface using a Turbo Grafx 16 custom Robospin theme. And the way this is set up now is it works just like any other console out there. You plug in your TV output, which is a mini HDMI cord here. Then you plug in your USB power. Then you plug in your controller. And this is a Raspberry Pi Zero W, so this does support Bluetooth connectivity, so if I have any compatible Bluetooth controllers, that will work as well. And just for a size reference, here's an original hue card for the Turbo Grafx 16, and it's actually slightly bigger than this micro console. So let's go ahead and power this up and check out a few games. Okay, it's time to go ahead and power this up. So I'm gonna hit my power switch. And I do have a custom splash screen intro that I customized just for this micro console. That'll pop up here in just a few here. So this is a custom attract mode image. On this side of the screen we have a bunch of logos for the games. In the middle here we have artwork for the games. Then on this side we have a preview for each game. And as I mentioned earlier in the video, this is working with the official Turbo Grafx 16 mini controller. This works great with Retropie and a lot of the single board computers that do support Retropie. And I do have a bunch of other systems on here as well, but for now we're just going to concentrate on the Turbo Grafx 16 games. So let's start off with, find a game to play here. Let's start off with Ninja Spirit. Wow, you got some crazy jumps with this game. He gets crazy high. Look at that. Jeez. That's what was nice about the old games. There wasn't so many buttons. It was very simple to figure out the games. Nowadays, it takes an hour just to learn how to play the game properly because there's so many different controls. But back then, I mean, we were dealing with 2 different buttons plus a start and select. And with the Turbo Grafx 16 controllers, we did have that turbo options as well with the... Oh, I'm talking so much, now I'm dead. One thing I haven't tried yet is the turbo mode. These guys aren't going to stop coming. I'm going to turn on turbo. Yeah, looks like it's working. Turbo. So if I turn on turbo for the jump, then he doesn't do a full jump. This game's got really good control. I like this. And I do have a safe shutdown script installed, so when I hit that power switch, it does perform a safe shutdown. So I'll go ahead and hit that switch now. And that'll shut down everything and then power off the console. So instead of just having a kill switch, that does a safe shutdown, which is a lot better. So let's try another game. And this is the very first game I ever played on the Turbo Grafx 16, and I kind of talked about this in a previous video where I talked about this build here, where I used a Raspberry Pi 3 with a custom Turbo Grafx 16 case. So we'll go ahead and play this game. I remember this game being on display at a local electronics store that was right next to the junior high that I went to school to. And I was blown away at the colors and the graphics on this Turbo Grafx 16 console, and I wanted to get one of these so bad. But unfortunately at the time, this console was a little bit too much, and I ended up getting the original NES instead. And I was kind of a late bloomer to get the original NES. I know those came out way back in the mid-80s, but I didn't get one for myself until the early 90s. Eventually I did end up getting a Turbo Grafx 16 in the late 90s. I found one at a pawn shop for only 30 bucks. And that came with 2 controllers and a bunch of different games and all the plugins. And I'm not sure what I did with it. I think I traded it in for a different console eventually, but I'm kind of mad. I should have kept that console in my collection. I should have never got rid of it, especially at that price. Only 30 bucks. Let's try some R-Type. And one thing I would like to say is I'm really impressed with this Turbo Grafx 16 mini controller. This came with my Turbo Grafx 16 mini, and the funny thing is I have not even played that yet. I just barely got that a couple days ago, and hopefully I can do a review on that here soon. But I have got a chance to play with the controller, and I am really impressed with it so far. The D-pad is nice and responsive, the buttons work well, the turbo works great. This is a really cool controller. Let's try some Samurai Ghost. The guy's pretty creepy looking. Kind of weird, like the movement in his arm and the way he jumps. It's kind of weird. But the game is unique, I'll give it that. So I got my Micro Splatterhouse Hue card. We'll go ahead and put that in the console. And again, these are just for fun. They're not functional, but it does look neat in there. Okay, it's time for me to get out of here. If you liked this video, if you could, hit that like button and have yourself a great day, and I'll see you next time. Let's try some blazing lasers.